like most people, we were sitting out there and Baba came out to give his darshan. He passed by me and immediately, he couldn't have walked more than a few feet away, and suddenly he turned around. He just wheeled around. One moment he was smiling, the next moment it was a scowl on his face. And I remember leveling his index finger straight at me. He literally screamed at me. He said, "You thief! What the heck do you think you are doing out here? Get out! Thief! 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 Get out! Get out!" I was dumbfounded. I had no reaction. I could not even think.
Sandy Nat of Auburn, California, knows both the love and the seeming displeasure of Sri Sathya Sai Baba. It is a compelling story with multiple highs and lows, taking him from the depths of despair to the outer reaches of the universe. Sandy Nat's story is the very first Sai Baba devotee video interview recorded by Souljourns in the summer of 1999. This interview was taped in Yuba City, California.
Many, many years ago, when I was in India, and I happened to be reading an English periodical where an account of a university professor had been given about his visit to Puttaparthi. I read that article. I attached no importance to it. I said, in India, this is the usual thing. But somehow or the other, it absorbed my interest. And I started asking myself, I said, how come that such things are possible? And in that article, he had made a reference to a book written by Arthur Osborne on the Shirdi Sai Baba. I was in the library at that time, and I went through the catalogue of books, and the book by Arthur Osborne called The Incredible Sai Baba was immediately available. I picked that book up. It's not a very big, thick book, it's a small book. But every word that I read about the life of Shirdi Sai Baba was even more incredible than what I had read in the English periodical. And I asked myself, I said, I have lived in this country for so long, and if people like, or men like the Shirdi Sai Baba have been here, and I have been totally ignorant about their existence, this merely shows a level of my great ignorance. Well, that's how it started. And so we are always perplexed, always face life's problems with our own personal desires, or everything on a day-to-day basis. So I said, let's go to Puttaparthi. Let's go and see the Sai Baba. If nothing else, let's sort of ask him to fulfill my worldly wishes. Let's go to him, if that is what he does. That's what I went there. I went there primarily to have certain worldly wishes fulfilled, certain problems to be solved. That was the sole purpose. There was no other interest at all. So I got into the train at Calcutta. It's a long, tedious journey. I don't know how long it took. It certainly was a 3 or 4 day journey. I landed up in Puttaparthi. At that time, there was not very much in Puttaparthi.
Do you remember what year it was?
It must have been sometimes in the early 70s or somewhere around there, or maybe towards the late 60s. I don't even remember now. Perhaps 1967, for some reason it comes to my mind. We all used to sleep under the trees. There was no running water. We used to go to the nearby stream. There used to be very large crowds in those days. So I went there, and they said, I'll have to sit out in the line, and then Baba would come out and he chooses people at random whom he would give interviews. I sat there for 10, 12 days. He wouldn't even look at me. And some of the people, since the crowd was so small, so some of them were given interviews more than once. But I was completely ignored. So I said, there has got to be a purpose to it. I said, well, apart from getting my worldly wishes fulfilled, let's try to see what else he has got to say. Not that I was interested, but I said, since I'm not getting an interview, let's sort of see as to what he has got to say. So I bought a couple of books, and I used to go out into the country and sit there under a tree and try to read them. It was like Greek to me. Whatever I had to say about the soul, karma, so many other things. It was like Greek. I had no interest. Really, I had no interest. And then I came back. And Baba, ultimately, he always takes you to the edge of the cliff, then he pulls you back. When I was more or less ready to leave, right on the last day, he called me. I went into the interview room along with other people. He was first talking with the other group of people, and he was materializing all kinds of things and giving them to people, and people were in awe. You should have seen their faces. And when it came my turn, I looked at Baba. I said, Baba, what about something for me? And believe me, I really did not even have a desire within my heart for him to materialize and give me something, even on day one. And Baba looked at me. He said, you don't need it. And he was absolutely right, absolutely right. And I can tell this, I read things about so many people having been given rings and watches and all these manifestations. They would certainly are being given by Baba for a certain purpose, for the right people, for the right cause. I understand. But in my own case, and it's the only thing I really can talk about, I personally have never attached any importance to the so-called physical manifestations. Even when I was not the least interested in things spiritual, manifestations were of no interest to me. So, in a nutshell, at the time of the interview, here I'm not going to go into too many details. I will touch upon the most important things. One of the questions which I asked Baba was, I said, Baba, all this theory of karma is based on the cycle of birth and death, rebirth. How am I to know that such a thing exists? Some religions believe in it, some others don't. I find it very difficult to believe in it. How do I know? How do I determine that for myself? You say it is so, but somehow or the other I find it very difficult to believe. And Baba, I remember, he walked right up to me and he stood before me and he started breathing very deeply. He would take in deep breaths and would say, like this, the soul comes in the body, stays in the body for some time, and then he would exhale and say, like that it goes out. Or in other words, the very process of human breath is more or less the replica of the cycle of life. Because our life, or the life of the body, is directly connected with the continuity of the process referred to as death. The moment we stop breathing, we die. Yes. But then he said, don't worry about it. Don't even try to think about it. The mind cannot give the answer. When the right time comes, you shall know. That's what he said. You will know it, don't even worry about it. Try to have faith in me. Try to have faith in Swami. It was easier said than done. It was very difficult, very difficult. And the next question which I asked him was, I said, Baba, is it really necessary for me to subscribe to any organized form of religion? I was born into a certain family. The religion of my parents was supposed to be my religion. That's what I was told was my religion by my parents.
Can you tell us what that was?
Sikhism. I was born into a Sikh family. I said, but when I look at the strife amongst human beings in the name of religion, I see more bloodshed and discord than anything else. Look at the history of this mankind. Look at the history of the world. How many people have not been butchered to death in the name of religion? And I said, there would have been a lot of sense if I had grown up in a free environment, studied all the religions of the world, and then made a choice for myself. Then there would have been some sense. Here it was something that was imposed upon me. It doesn't make any sense to me. And at the same time, when I meet other people, when I meet someone who does not belong to the same religion as myself, instantly, it's a reflex action, the feeling comes to me that this person is different. And that I know is also not true. So religion in my case is standing like a wall, it's like a barrier. Is it okay, is it all right for me to give up the very notion of religion, not to have any religion at all? I would feel that much more comfortable with myself.
And he said?
And I remember Baba stood there before me and he raised his right hand like that and he thumped the ground very hard with his right foot. And he says, that is the true essence of religion. He says, that is the true religion. Humanity is the true religion. So I said, Baba, in that case, as of now, I shall subscribe no more to the bogey of organized religion. And I have not till today. In my own mind, I have drifted away from the concept of organized religion. And having given up one religion, I wasn't going to adopt another because it would have been like coming out of one ditch and falling straight into another. I practice no religion. I do not believe in a religion. I am not subscribing to any religion. For me, I try to treat all human beings as one family. That's the way I look upon humanity. I try to, at least. And subsequent to that, I asked Baba, I said, Baba, what kind of a future do I have in life? Most people are very curious, and I was one of them. So Baba told me, he said, oh, you have a very, very good future. No sooner did I hear the words, I was absolutely elated. And the interview ended, he gave me his blessings. I walked out of the room and I thought I was really walking on air. I was so happy because Baba had said I had a terrific future. Then, when I started reading his books, what he had to say about the detachment, the impermanence of the world that we live in, how we find ourselves really bound down by desire and all this thing that we go through in life, then I started having some very serious doubts. And I thought to myself, I said, well, it was all very well for me to feel very happy that Baba said that I was going to have a very good future, but he may have meant something entirely different. My understanding and my yardstick was essentially in terms of the fulfillment of my worldly desires and wishes. Baba may have meant something different, and then I was in doubt. And the more I thought about it, the more confused and doubtful I became. So I said, another trip to Puttaparthi is called for. I must go back to him and ask him what he really meant by that. And in the meantime, I had heard stories of other people for what they thought Baba meant and what Baba really meant. So I went back. No need to go to details as to how I found him or to where he was. I think it was in Uti at that time. And that's the time when Baba did give me an interview. Probably the last interview that I had with him.
Just a year or two later or more?
Oh, maybe within a span of 3-4 years, I think. And so I asked him that. I said, Baba, the last time when I came, this is what transpired. What exactly did you mean when you said that I had a very, very good future? I'm doubtful about my own interpretation. Baba at that time walked up to me and he placed his hand over my head. He said, the mind shall be at peace. That's what I meant. And I still remember to this day that it's not only that he placed his hand on my head, but he seemed to be pressing it pretty hard. And I thought for a moment, why is he pressing it hard? I had no way of knowing. I didn't know anything. So the interview ended. I came out. And I started thinking to myself, I said, yeah, the trip was worth it. But if he talked merely of peace of mind, and I was thinking differently, I don't know where I am and which way I am going now. And after that, I went to Puttaparthi quite a few times. The attraction was very great. The attraction was really very great. But then things changed as far as the outward treatment was concerned. No sooner would I land up in Puttaparthi, either right at the gate there would be somebody standing out there with a message that Baba has asked me to go back and not to come back again. Or if I did manage to walk in and sit down in the crowd, and Baba would come and look at me and say, what are you doing here? Go away. Don't come here ever again. I've told you. Don't try to come here ever again. And I had to leave. That would upset me greatly. So I would go back to my hotel room in Bangalore, and many times I would be in tears. I would not be able to sleep. And then at night he would come in the so-called dream. I tell you, you have to have that experience yourself. It's not a dream. It really is not a dream. It's like me talking to you in person. He would come, pick me up, put me to his chest, and say, I chastise those whom I love the most. Don't get upset. Don't attach too much importance to the way you get treated. I love you very much. And these things continue. That was the last time, way back, that was many, many years ago, that I actually did get an interview. But in the intervening period, right up to now, he has given me his darshan. I don't know how many times I have lost the count. So many times he has given me his touch. Really, there is no need for me to go to Buddha. There is no need. There is no need. Possibly that is what he was trying to teach me at that time, when I was being told not to visit Puttaparthi. That was the lesson he took. It came the hard way, but I am that much more fortunate for it. And there is a very interesting incident about that also, which I feel like sharing with you. Baba used to say in his speeches that he was omnipresent, that he was everywhere, that everything was known to him. He was aware of all our thoughts because he was there within each one of us, within each and every living thing. And I used to think, how is it possible for one person sitting out in the backwaters of Puttaparthi and be aware of everybody in the world? How can one person keep an eye on millions and billions of people? It's not possible. The mind could not grasp the very idea of it. And once I was on a business tour in South India. I was in Cochin, which is a port city in Kerala. It's in South India. It was the time of the monsoon rains. It really rains. It literally pours in Kerala. And my plan was to complete the business tour and then go on to Puttaparthi on another visit to Baba, even if it threw me out, so what? I just wanted to go there. And as I was getting ready to leave the hotel, I suddenly thought, I said, well, I can take care of many other things. In any case, one has to sleep on the ground. But here I am living in a hotel where I don't need anything for myself. I don't have to carry anything with myself. But when I go to Puttaparthi, I would certainly at least need a towel for myself. Then I looked out of the window and it was literally pouring. I said, how am I going to go out and buy a towel for myself? So I looked around and there were plenty of towels in the bathroom. I immediately thought of my school days. I said, well, when we used to be at school, we used to go into different restaurants and we would pinch forks and spoons and things like that, and come back and each boy would show them to each other and be very proud of it. It was a very, very small thing, and you know, I mean, everybody else does it, so that's okay. So I said, let me take this towel. But this thought immediately came to my mind. I said, this is against the teachings of Baba. But then I said to myself, I justified that action to myself, and I said, all right, I'm going to take this towel. I'm not going to go out in the rain to buy something for myself. And at the same time, I am at least 400 miles away from him. He's not here in this hotel room of mine. Let him prove that he is aware of what I am doing. It would be a test, and I don't have to go out in the rain. It serves two purposes. So I took the towel, and I left the hotel. It must have been quite a few days later that I landed up in Whitefield, and he was in Whitefield, which is near Bangalore at that time. So I went there. Like most people, we were sitting out there, and Baba came out to give his darshan. As he came walking through the lines of people on day one, so he comes along, he looks at me, a big broad smile, and he gave me his blessings, and I was very happy. For me, the greatest achievement was that I was not told to get out. So I was very happy. So I went there the following day again. Same thing, Baba came along, big smile, the sign of a blessing. He passed by me, and immediately, he couldn't have walked more than a few feet away. Then suddenly he turned around. He just wheeled around. One moment he was smiling, the next moment it was a scowl on his face. And I remember leveling his index finger straight at me. He literally screamed at me. He said, "You thief! What the heck do you think you are doing out here? Get out! Thief! 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 Get out! Get out!" Can you imagine? In public.
Wow.
Being called a thief and then ordered to leave and to get thrown out. First of all, I was dumbfounded. I had no reaction. I could not even think. There was no reaction. It was too sudden. And when I described the incident and my thought processes in the hotel room many days earlier when I pinched that towel, it may sound to you as if it was a great moment in my life, something which was of great importance. But believe me, it is something that we do all the time. It was only a passing thought at that time and a fleeting action. And within probably no sooner was it done that I completely forgot about it. But certainly since many days had passed in between, I had completely forgotten this incident by the time I was in Whitefield. I just did not even remember it. It was too trivial an incident to keep that in mind. I did not know. I did not remember.
Might he have been referring to something else?
And so I sat there with my head in my hands, and the guys around me, you should have seen that reaction. And everybody thought they wanted to get away as further away from me as possible. And they must have thought I was the greatest thief in history. And I, at that time, prayed to Baba. I started thinking about the theft he was referring to. I said, "Baba, it's all very well for you to throw me out, to treat me the way you like. You can punish me, but in heaven's name, what theft are you really referring to? I cannot think of any. I am not a thief. What theft? What particular theft are you referring to? I do not know. Punish me by all means, but inform me what incident are you referring to?" No sooner did I say that, it was like an immediate telephone connection being made with him. And immediately the answer came. And the whole incident of it all flashed in my mind. Then I realized as to what he was referring to. And when that message came, I just sat down and I wept. Those were the tears of joy. He had given me proof of his omnipresence. I considered myself so fortunate and so lucky that he had chosen me for that experience. Those were the tears of joy and great pleasure. And I was in bliss. And after that, there was no question of my ever doubted his ability to know each and everything and to be everything. That's it. It was a life-changing experience. My life changed for him. And before I come to my other very important experience, let me also mention something here which may be of some help to others who may have gone through the same process. When I went to Puttaparthi for the first time, out in the veranda downstairs, there used to be a big picture of Shirdi Sai Baba. And Sathya Sai Baba always said that in his previous incarnation he was at Shirdi. Again, since I did not believe in this cycle of life and death, found it very difficult that someone could be at Shirdi and come back again in Puttaparthi. The mind could not accept that. Very difficult to accept. Very difficult to accept. And then in the Indian concept, Shirdi Sai Baba, if you were to look at his pictures, he was a very simple looking man. He lived a life of great austerity, literally out in the wilderness, torn clothes, sitting on a stone. And then, having been conditioned by the Indian yardstick that all great spiritual people are extremely, at least in their physical appearances, they are very, very, very austere and severely non-worldly. They don't they live extremely simple lives. That's what I'm trying to say. For some reason, the look on Shirdi Sai Baba's face was far more appealing to me. It had a far greater impact than when I would look at Sathya Sai Baba. Sathya Sai Baba would be silken robes, maybe a Mercedes-Benz car, and a lot of people running around. You know, that's what I thought I said. It created doubt. And I used to think about this many, many times. When I would look at the two pictures, immediately my focus would be on Shirdi Sai Baba. He attracted me. Sathya Sai Baba did not attract me that way, for some reason. And I used to go through that mental debate. And one night, this happened in Bombay in the early 70s, I think. Then the Shirdi Sai Baba, he appeared before me. He appeared before me.
In a dream?
You can call it a dream, but it's as good as, just like my talking to you now, it's as real. And he came, the old man, in his white attire. He came, glowing eyes, big, glowing eyes. He came with his face like that, and he put his hand over his heart. And he took a very deep breath and a big sigh, and he said, "Oh, you have no faith in me." The next moment he disappeared. But after that, my doubt certainly cleared up. There was no more doubt. Then I knew it was one and the same. Well, many things happened in the meantime, numerous darshans, so many that I have lost the count and even the memory of them. They really have become irrelevant to me. So many times Baba came and gave his darshan. In 1983, I went to India. I was there for a very long period of time. And for some reason, the true urge within me to go to Puttaparthi never even came up. And I used to ask myself, I am here now. Why is it that I don't feel inclined to go to Puttaparthi? But the desire was not there. And I came back. But I never went to Puttaparthi, though I spent quite a bit of time in India. There was no desire to go. And now I am coming to share with you, and please allow me if it makes any sense to you or to anyone who shares this experience with me. I'm privileged to share this. This particular incident has been the most significant, the most notable, the all-important experience. This happened in the early part of 1985. In this very home where we are sitting here today. I never used to meditate on Baba. I was totally incapable of meditation. I still am unable to meditate. I have never been able to meditate. People tell you to sit in the lotus pose. I cannot even sit on the bare ground for more than a few minutes. It's the most painful way to sit. I was in the early hours of the morning, for all intent and purpose, fast asleep. I was in perfect health. There was nothing wrong with me. I have always been in good health. Suddenly I found myself coming out of the body. It was a frightening experience because it had not happened any time before that I could remember. I came out of the body effortlessly. It was like breathing in and breathing out, as Baba had shown many years earlier. I came out of the body. I came out of the body and I was floating in midair, looking down upon my body. And I stayed in that experience for some time in order to really absorb the lesson that my true self, my thinking, living self, was something that was different and totally apart from my physical self. It was truly a very unique experience. It was not like the experience that we keep on reading about or people talk about, the near-death experiences. It was not like that. It was not that. It was not that. I was not dying because of any cause. I was in perfect health when this thing happened. And in that state, when I found myself coming out of the room, I could go through any physical matter, like the walls of the room, I could just go right through them. There was no obstruction. There was nothing. I came out of the room, and then I started going at a tremendous speed up into the high heavens. Started going up, higher and higher. Then, at a certain point, then it was a burst of speed. I shot forth into the high heavens at a tremendous speed. And then suddenly, there was a flash. I remember. It was a flashlight. Big spark of light. And the next moment, I found myself in all creation. I was everywhere. When I say everywhere, the human vocabulary cannot describe, it does not have the necessary terminology to describe something which has no boundaries. It is the limitless creation. All the galaxies, all the solar systems, all the universes. We human beings can only relate to the solar system that we live in. But there are countless solar systems. There is no limit to creation. This is a universe which is without limit, without boundaries. You have to experience it to know it. It cannot be destroyed. Since we human beings are living with extreme limitations, we cannot relate to it. I found myself everywhere. I was within every living thing, every human being, every cat and dog, every little insect, every blade of grass, every grain of sand, every drop of water. Everywhere I was. I was in all creation, and the whole creation was within me. I was aware of the thoughts and the actions of all living things. The thoughts of all human beings were known to me. Everything, there was no limit, there was no barrier that stood. I only wish if I could describe it a little more adequately. We do not have the vocabulary to describe it. I was omnipresent. I was omnipotent. I was omniscient. I could create anything. I knew everything. And I was everywhere. The whole universe was subject to my thought. Whatever I thought, instantly it obeyed, and it carried out my orders immediately. Instantly. There was no time lag, because the universe and me, it was all one and the same. There were no parts to it. All the creation was within me, and I was in the creation. And it was a torrent of love that gushed forth from me towards all creation. It was such great love that poured forth. In fact, that love is the only thing that keeps all creation together. It's just love. It is the all-knowing love that the Creator has for its creation. Without that love, nothing can hold it together. That creation is love itself. The Creator is all love. The creation is all love. just love. It is the kind of love that we mortals on earth have never known. Our love is very conditional. That heavenly love is all given. And in that state, all I can tell you is, this is the great thing that I really want to share. Every little thought was immediately reflected throughout all creation. Since we as human beings are rays of the same sun, we are creators, we are gods, we have forgotten ourselves. We live in a state of delusion and ignorance. The greatest power that God has given us is the power of thought and free will. Only if we were to really see how our thoughts affect the ethers, we would be amazed. We would be amazed. And those thoughts that we send out in the ethers always manifest, and they come back to us. Always. Without error, it happens all the time. If we were to merely wake up to the fact that we have got to be conscious of what we think, we create our future and our present constantly, all the time, with the great power of thought and free will that has been given us. Since we are all creators, we are all rays of the same sun, we are creators, essentially gods. We truly are gods ourselves. We have forgotten ourselves. So that is where the element of free will comes in. Those who are gods would not be subject to the will of another entity. That is where the free will comes in. Only if a person, if an individual wants to bring about a change in his or her conditions in life, the only way it can happen is by changing the pattern of your thoughts. And that cycle of thoughts can be changed because you have the element of free will. We are totally free. We can create anything. And in that state, I could create planets instantly and dissolve them instantly. I merely had to think and it would manifest instantly. All the oceans of the world were right here. It is a universe which is subject to law, and it is a very tightly held universe. It is just held in the palm of the hand. It's a tightly held universe. It is not subject to any accidents. The law prevails. It is a strict law of action and reaction. Nothing is outside that law. Believe me, it is a universe of absolute laws. And the greatest of all laws is the law of love. Love is the greatest law. That's the only reality. Anyway, I remained in that state for quite some time. If you were to ask me, and many times I have thought about it, I keep on thinking about it every day of my life, how best to describe what I experienced. What is that great energy like? How close can we come to describe it? That all-knowing intelligence that is behind all this creation. How do I describe it? I shall make an attempt, however feeble it might be. The nearest that I can think of is, it is a universe of vibration, this I can tell you. Tremendous energy that vibrates. It vibrates. And it pulsates like that. And yet, it is the all-powerful, it's the all-knowing intelligence. We talk of energy like electricity. This is a very gross form of energy. That energy is the all-knowing energy. It knows everything. It's intelligence. You can feel it. It's intelligence. It is a living intelligence. It pulsates. It's just like that. And all physical matter, all the worlds, all the planets that exist, it is just energy transforming itself into various shapes, and it keeps on changing all the time. The mere thought, anything can be manifested instantly. The whole planets can just disappear. New planets, new solar systems can be created instantly. And physical forms and shapes just come and go. Whatever we see, we look at our human bodies, our physical bodies. We look everywhere around us, the trees, the flowers, the homes. This really is not the reality. This thing is not the reality. This is only a form of that great energy that is manifesting itself. And it changes forms all the time. That's why nothing ever stays permanent in the world, in the physical world of matter. It just comes and goes. It changes shapes. All these atoms, everything, they come together, they form certain shapes, they go back from where they came from, then they come back in. It's just the cosmic dance that goes on and on, on and on. But when man thinks that matter is the reality, that is where we come to a dead end. That is not the reality. And as far as the physical matter is concerned, we can perceive the physical matter and the physical world with the five senses. The five senses again are not what really is the reality. We are groping really in the dark with the five senses and the mind. The reality behind that is something different. This is impermanent. That is why the cycle of life and death eternally change. Have you ever thought that right today, at this very moment, all of us, all the humanity, all millions of human beings who are running around, everybody in California and in this world, whoever is running around, everything, the so-called living thing that we have, all the animal world, all the plant life, that there would come a time when none of this would exist. There would be nothing left of this. All this would be swept away. If this was all to be swept away, then the question arises, is this real? Obviously it is not real. It is not real. Where has it come from? It came from somewhere. We talk of the five elements: the earth, fire, water and air. And the fifth element is the so-called ether, which is the most subtle form. All the planets are there suspended out in the ethers, right? the question arises, where have all these planets come from? Suddenly they came out of space. Call it the ethers, call it whatever you like. That's the only place they could have come from. And when they disappear, that's where they disappear back into. So what is that space? The so-called space. Space pervades everything. This very space is the body of God. This is vital energy. This is energy which is the all-knowing, intelligent, sitting energy. This is the body of God. If you were to ask me, where's God? Right here. When I wave my hand, it's right here. All around me. All around us. This is space. This is God. Call it God. Don't use the word God. I don't want to use the word God because immediately you get a feeling of separateness. But the moment you come to know the reality, then you are a part of that reality, and the distinction and the feeling of separateness disappears. It is not there. This whole thing, it is like that. This is how these vibrations come. It pulsates, it vibrates. Tremendous energy. It is so powerful. It's tremendous energy. It's the all-knowing, powerful energy. It's full of intelligence. And as I said, all physical matter, everything comes out of this, and it keeps on constantly changing its shapes. Nothing ever gets destroyed in life. Nothing is, because the atoms are not subject to destruction. Even this physical body, when the so-called process of death comes along, this body, really, we talk the soul. Obviously, the soul is not the body. The soul is immortal. But as far as the body is concerned, the body itself is really not subject to destruction because these atoms go back. And then they would form something else, and then they would form some other bodies. That's what it is. Nothing really happens. They just change form. All right, getting back to what I was talking about earlier. In that state, there is no such thing as space. There is no such thing as time. Time stands still. This notion of past, present, and future is only on the earthly plane. Time took its birth when we started looking at certain events taking place. We see the sun rise and the sun go down. That is where the notion of time came. But in that state, there is no time. It's the eternal now. There is no mind. There is no mind. There is no space. There is no time. It is pure love. And it is the kind of a bliss, the like of which we have never experienced on the earthly plane, ever. Nor is there a way to experience it. Because most of our so-called happinesses here are directly related to the fulfillment of any worldly desire. When that stands fulfilled, we are happy only for a short period of time before the next fall comes. That's why we get caught in that cycle.
Sandy, before the tape ends, I would like to ask, if it's okay, just one question. If you had but one message to give to one person or to all of humanity, I know I'm not giving you much time to think about it, what would that message be?
Look within yourselves. That is your true reality. We are all one. Since we have different shapes and forms, that gives us the feeling that we are separate. We are not separate. The life or the true life force that animates all these bodies is one and the same. So we are all one. We are not different. And God is not outside of ourselves. Don't, I would say, even run around or try to find Him anywhere else. Don't even try to use the mind. The mind will not unravel the mystery. It's an obstacle in the way. And look within yourself. Be calm, be still, and that is where you will find him. It's above all, it's always the case. It's always the case. We cannot compare ourselves to other people. We should not. We cannot judge. When the time comes, you must have that absolute confidence and faith in that higher intelligence which is within each one of us, that it would guide us at the appropriate time. And can you imagine that this experience that I have shared with you, it took place in 1985. 12 years have gone by. Many times during this time, I was impatient. I wanted to get back to that experience. It was given to me. I cannot repeat it. If I could, I wouldn't be in this body anymore. I don't want to be. This is like being in prison. I don't want to be here. But I cannot repeat it. It was given to me through His grace. And one very important thing, when the experience was about to end, from that state, then I found a certain force pulling me down back towards my body. Then I came and I was floating over my body. I struggled hard against it. I did not want to get back into the body. But it was an irresistible force that pulled me back into the body, and no sooner was I put back into the body that the lid came down, and immediately the mind was there, the five senses were there, and the mind, its agitation, that it was agitated. That is what gives you no peace of mind. And immediately, when I opened my eyes, I had goose pimples and a very strong feeling, and I know it. You have to have that experience. It was the strong presence of the Sai Baba in that room. This experience was given to me by the Sai himself. It was he. Then I also sensed he literally floating out of the room, and out he went. It was him who did it. And you were talking, Ted, last night, that you were very impatient to really sort of move very fast. Can you imagine what frustration I must have gone through in these 12 years in order to get back to that experience? Ultimately, I have found my peace, and that is, even the desire to have that experience is not there anymore. I do not even have the desire to have that experience. And the only thing that I can do, and am attempting to do, is to have that faith that at the right moment, He will take me the next step. I may not even be ready for the next step. How do I know? I don't. I don't know it. I don't know whether I'm ready. But that higher intelligence that has brought me so far would take care of it. It is always with me. It's constantly with me. It knows what I need and would give it to me.
Sandy, thank you very, very much.
We will take part in respecting and abiding by